here.
Yeah, yeah.
People miss that
There
bit
we
of
go.
whatever, but um,
Yeah.
if you could bring up maybe the wiki page or something for the opening narration.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I've just
Here, let's
stopped
see here.
trying to put it on the Zoom screen because, as you know, Zoom continues to get really convoluted. Like, I don't know if you see the
Yeah.
participants, but there's a not joined, which is me. I'm like, how does that work?
What?
It's
I feel
then
like you're there. Yeah.
same thing happened Monday morning or Tuesday when I did another Twilight Zone, and I'm like, why am I here as a guest? I mean, it's annoying.
Right.
So
Right.
it doesn't seem to
Oh
be a
my
problem.
God.
It's just annoying. So
Yeah.
that's
I mean, the one thing that I'll give Zoom is like they're still better than Skype.
oh God,
But
yeah.
but then that's setting a low bar, you know.
Well, it's just don't change things. It's kind of
Yeah,
a good rule of
right.
thumb.
Exactly. If yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah.
Like
All right.
I'm getting more annoyed with Apple because I had an iPad I made music on, and then I got a new iPad, so I was like, oh, I'll give the old one to my daughter. And then I
Yeah.
realized the new one with the update, I cannot make music on it.
What?
Like when you
Why?
plug a
What?
guitar or a bass in, there's a
Yeah.
sound in the background. Like it's so it's unusable. And then
Whoa,
the
weird.
GarageBand itself is way glitchier. Like then I was like, oh, I'll do some synthesizer stuff. And then those weren't working well either. So it's like
Oh
I
man.
kind of had to take back the old iPad if I wanted to make music using an iPad.
Oh jeez.
But
Wow,
now she's got
that
one for her school, so I guess it's okay. But yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I felt bad. You assume you get the new iPad and everything's gonna work, and it did
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So and maybe they want you to buy
Wow.
a Pro. I think what they want is for you to go Bluetooth, but I don't I think Bluetooth makes me feel slightly nauseous, so I tend not to use
Yeah.
it.
Well, and I feel like when you're doing something like audio capture, video capture, whatever, Bluetooth is not going to be your best way to go. You
Yeah,
you
you're gonna get
need
a little
that.
latency and yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you need that analog plug-in. Um, hmm, that's weird.
which is why I
Hey,
wouldn't get a Pro because pros have that. So
yeah, yeah. Another important question for you. Are you still able to vote in the U?
I am, but to be honest, I haven't voted since 2012 because I have to jump through a whole lot of hoops. And I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
my vote was leaving the country basically.
Yeah,
That was my vote.
that's a pretty strong statement. Yeah.
So, I
Mhm.
watching American politics from the outside looking in is somewhat
Oof.
nicer. I mean, I don't have to personally
Yeah.
engage my brain in it too much.
Right. Right. Lucky
So,
you.
yeah.
Lucky you.
But
Yeah. Well, I have got the opening narration and
okay.
have uh, relatively short notes, but I'm bringing that up here so I can get to
Okay.
it as well.
Mine, I did it very piecemeal, or I watched the episode and fell asleep for the first 10 minutes because it was late at night, not because it was boring. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then I
yeah,
watched some of it at work and I did notes there and I did the trivia there. So then I just had to like piecemeal everything together in the same document in the end, but that's my fault.
yeah.
That's fine. Excuse me. Okay, let me leave a 5-second gap and we will do the show proper.
Bueno.
Welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we delve into all of the episodes of the Twilight Zone and beyond. As always, this is Matt here, coming back for another round from Mission Log. It's John Champion. Howdy.
Hey, glad to be here. I feel like it's been a little while since we talked Twilight Zone, so nice to get back into it.
Yeah, you're back to a 30 minute or a 25 if we're being realistic,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is the platonic ideal for a Twilight Zone episode, I think, even though
I
we
think
did
it
the
is,
40.
and especially for this one. But I've enjoyed some of our episodes too. Yeah,
Oh yeah, there's some good ones in
yeah,
there, but they seem to fly by now, which is I guess that's nice. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it
Um,
depends on the story. It really does. Yeah.
well, and this is the first one I think where I was just like, "Hey, come on over and do it," where you did not specifically request it. I'm like, "Guy does space podcast. I mean, Star Trek podcast. I should bring him in for the
Yeah.
spacey episode." This one, of course, having a lot more of a foot in mythology or not mythology, depending on your point of view. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah, I feel pretty safe calling it mythology, but
okay.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
using well the way Probe 7 over and out to say the name of the episode, how it paints it in that brush, I think, like
Yeah.
you would watch it. It's like the end of another show, which I guess I won't just spoil for everyone, but we've seen this ending a few times.
Yeah, it is not a but there's something good about it where you can also okay, you can look at the mythology of what the episode is drawn from. You can also look at the episode as kind of painting with a broad brush about just a general kind of mythology, a general origin of life kind of mythology. So I think it works either way.
Yes. Um, I will do a little trivia on this one. Fortunately, not so many actors, so I can cover everybody.
All right.
Original air date was November 29th, 1963. Pretty sure the Twilight Zone was preempted the previous week, excuse me, which would have been November 22nd. So it
Yeah.
reordered the episodes of the season because I think the one they were going to show, of course, the Kennedy assassination preempted it if you're not doing the math. But
Yeah.
that changed order in the season for is it you? Night Call. It changed the order for Night Call. So, I mean,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's an anthology show, but interesting. Script is a Serling. Ted Post directed. He helmed A World of Difference way back in season one, which I believe you were there for, and he'll be back
Yeah.
for a few more this season. Over in the world of film, his credits include Hang 'em High, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and Magnum Force, which is the second Dirty Harry movie, I think. Colonel Adam Cook was played by Richard Basehart. He starred in the television series A Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, did the narration for Knight Rider, and also ended up in Fellini films like La Strada and Il Bidone. Did I even say that right? I don't know. He also played Hitler in Hitler.
What?
There's a TV
Really?
movie or something called Hitler. He plays Hitler. So I just like the sentence. He played Hitler in Hitler.
First of all, I cannot picture that at all, but I'm so glad you hit my two favorites, which are Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea and that opening narration for Knight Rider, which is just so good. I love Richard Basehart, love his
He
voice,
only
and
appears in the
yeah,
pilot apparently, but his narration sticks through the entire series.
yep, yep, so good.
Antoinette Bauer played Eve Norda. She made the regular 60s TV rounds, and this company I must make special note of her appearance on Star Trek in the episode Cat's Paw, which is maybe I should watch it. It is Halloween Day as I'm
You
recording this, and
you
that's
don't need
that's
to. No,
that's the
nobody's going to
one
hold you to it.
the
Nobody's going to
two
make you.
the two original series episodes I've never watched is that and The Empath I've only seen the first 10 minutes of.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, that's I'm not a fan of either. And
I'm
like I
not in a
said,
rush to watch them, but yeah.
nobody's gonna make you. Yeah.
But those are the two that I have never watched.
Wow.
Harold Gould was General Larrabee. Gould would later find sitcom success as Martin Morgenstein on Rhoda and as Miles Weber on The Golden Girls. Lieutenant Blaine, who was named on Wikipedia but not in the episode, was played by Barton Heyman. His main claim to fame is in the film Dead Man Walking, which he filmed shortly before his own 1996 passing. But I've got to shout out a credit that he was in Quick Change, a movie I think is mostly forgotten, but is kind of secretly one of my favorites. You know Quick Change?
I
That is
don't. No.
Randy Quaid, Gina Davis, and Bill Murray. They rob a bank, and the
Whoa.
whole movie is about them trying to get out of town. Um, Bill
Amazing.
Murray is dressed as a clown for the first 30 minutes of the movie because that's part of the
It-
heist.
this sounds very familiar, actually. Now that you're saying that.
And it
Yeah.
includes one of my favorite movie quotes, which is Randy Quaid screaming at a foreign taxi driver, "You don't know anything. You don't know red from hell." And I love that line. If you could go ahead and give us a quick opening narration, please.
All right, here you go. One Colonel Cook, a traveler in space. He's landed on a remote planet, several million miles from his point of departure. He can make an inventory of his plight by just one 360-degree movement of head and eyes. Colonel Cook has been set adrift in an ocean of space in a metal lifeboat that has been scorched and destroyed, and he will never fly again. He survived the crash, but his ordeal is yet to begin. Now he must give battle to loneliness. Now Colonel Cook must meet the unknown. It's a small planet set deep in space. But for Colonel Cook, it's the Twilight Zone.
All right. This episode does pull a little bit of a hat trick because as you were saying it, I was like, this is a shuttlecraft crash episode like you did on Star Trek or Battlestar or something, and those are usually
Sure.
not my favorite, but I only just thought about that as you were reading the narration again. I'm like, okay, maybe it's because we don't see it crash and we don't get the sequence, and then they're trying to get in touch with the regulars who you don't see in the
Yeah.
episode that much. So
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
we
You
have it's an
start after
anthology.
the action in that time-honored budget-saving way. You start after the action.
Yes. Now,
Yeah.
I guess they also sent Colonel Buck Rogers into space like this, but they're sending one guy on a deep space mission is not a great idea.
It's a bad idea. It's bad planning, and yeah. I mean, there are certain things here about the setup that you have to take with a huge grain of salt. You're there for the performance, and you're there for the twist. But things like when he tries to explain it, when Colonel Cook tries to explain his plight, and he like goes out into the dirt and he draws a circle, and he's like, "See, I left my galaxy." Like, okay, first of all, that is a very deep space mission then, because it's not just like, oh, I'm trying to go to the next solar system. You're saying that you left your entire galaxy, which could set you adrift for millions upon millions of years in that intergalactic space. He's very vague about that, but he's still getting TV and radio signal from his home planet, which, up to a point he's getting that. So I thought that was a little, obviously a bit of a stretch based on what we know about distances in space. But there's one little detail about that, about his communication with home base. Well, actually two, but the first one I wanted to bring up to you and see if you noticed it. Okay, you have these shots of his point of view in the spaceship, and you're looking at the wall of the spaceship, and there's the TV monitor embedded in it, but it's a crash ship. It's crashed at an angle, so we see the TV at an angle, right? Why is the stuff in the TV also at an angle? Did you
Hmm.
notice that?
Maybe if you're in the
So
flight chair, it makes sense from there, sort of like how you angle your rear view mirrors towards you. I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it's a
maybe
perfectly
so.
good
But
observation.
here's the thing, you go back and you watch, and the first guy that we see, he's standing there and he has that bank of computers behind him, right? Well, the bank of computers has two very obvious lines running up from that. But looking at it in the monitor, okay, the monitor itself is crooked, but those vertical lines are also crooked relative to the position of the TV. I'm like, did they just turn the camera on the other end just to make him feel better? Like, oh, your spaceship crashed. Look, everything's all screwed up here too, which it is because they're on the verge of war, which we would think would be World War III, some sort of, hellacious nuclear holocaust, something like that. Um, which also kind of kind of amuses but also scares me about the way that that's treated in TV of the era, and particularly in the Twilight Zone, because you want to zoom through at the story and you just sort of assume that everybody's on the same page. They're like, yeah, nuclear war, that's the kind of thing we fully expect to break out and not be prepared for. So it's like this guy's gone. And clearly, the mission took some planning. It took time to get there, and you would hopefully be aware of, escalating geopolitical tensions, right? But he's off, and there's like, yeah, boy, things just got really bad. We expect all of us to be wiped out in 12 minutes. I mean, it's really weird, but I guess it also speaks to the audience.
I guess it
It
depends how
speaks to
long
a
he's been
legit
out there.
fear.
If he's been in there for 3 years or something, it was a different planet when he was there. And just distances in
Yeah.
Twilight Zone. Season one, we
Yeah.
clocked it a lot because it had came up like 5 times. When the Lonely, I remember they're like he's on an asteroid 10 million miles from Earth, and it's like that. No, that doesn't work.
Well, right, 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 right.
So
Yeah.
something Serling did not understand is intergalactic distances. That's pretty
No.
clear. Where I guess a lot of people didn't before NASA was really kicking things into the sky.
Well, and that's still kind of cool. Is that okay? Well, it's 1963, so we definitely have a better understanding of this than we did in 1957. But there's something that I like. about a story that puts you into the middle of what's going on and just assumes that the audience will accept, hey, you know what, space is far away. And also, if a nuclear war is going to happen, it's going to happen without warning. And here you go. We're just like, you already get this. You're already on the same page with us who created this show for your entertainment.
Yeah, our
So
top
we don't need
20
to bother with a whole
priorities,
lot of detail.
our top 20 priorities have suddenly changed and you are not one of them, you know?
Yeah, right.
Hey, they're
Yeah,
nice enough to
that's
talk to them.
understandable.
They're spending
Yeah,
precious time talking to them when you think about from their end. So
they
that
are.
works
That's
out.
true. Yeah, they haven't gone home. Yeah.
But yeah, I did write the note here that I don't even think SpaceX is Musk enough to send a guy like this off on his own.
Not that far. I mean, come on. Yeah,
Hey, we put
we at
Ayla on the
least.
ship. Why not?
Yeah, well, that would be fair. Yeah. Um, but yeah, we at least send people up in twos or threes to go to the ISS and any other kind of missions now. But
Although I still
yeah,
assume that he's the man who fell to earthing and building a spaceship to go home. But
yeah, right.
something
But
like
he's
that.
also this character. We don't get a whole lot about him, but he's not the kind of misanthrope who would just be like, oh, I want to volunteer for this mission because I hate Earth and I hate humanity and I just want to get away from. Well, all right, a little spoiler, not Earth. I want to leave home and I want to get in a ship and never see my home again. Yeah, he's
Right,
not that
right.
guy. He's
No,
not
no,
that guy. Yeah.
no Taylors here, but yeah, I guess you
No.
need someone with a little bit of optimism to allow for the end of the episode to continue. I think
Yeah.
it's been a few weeks since I quoted Andrew's idea that the his trippiest to Twilight Zones are the ones where you cannot see how the people in the episode will continue after the episode. We're here. Yes, they
Yeah.
continued, and now we're here. Yay.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
So
Pretty sure.
maybe he would low rate this one. We'll keep our ratings in check for now, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is
Yeah.
definitely one. Oh, this is we were just going to continue from here. So, we can continue. I guess where is Eve from? Is she just I thought the twist before I had worked out the Earth thing, which is dumb because I just watched Planet of the Apes with you a few weeks ago, but um I was like, "Oh, maybe she's a cosmonaut." Although that would have been like a two sort of plot again, I
Oh.
guess. Which
Yeah. There's that's the problem. And again, here we are in 2024 trying to like reverse engineer a TV episode written in 1963, or maybe well before that. Certainly might have jotted this idea down, who knows, many years before that. And the problem with trying to look at it in the kind of detail that we're doing here is that, yeah, the same questions came up for me, not just where did she come from, as in, like, how did she get to this planet? Is there another crashed ship somewhere or whatever? Because she's a little feral. So, but at the same time, like, she had to come from somewhere. She is not a naturally occurring part of this planet. You know,
what she was
she's
wearing looks like a, Soviet flight suit. So that's kind of where I was like,
yeah.
yeah, it's beat
So,
up,
so
but
right. So there's a ship somewhere that got there, and I would expect her to be a little more resourceful, something. I don't know what I was expecting over it. And then the accent is and language obviously derived to throw us off, so we don't get the twist immediately. But it's an interesting choice because it made me think like in literal terms, like, no, where is she from? Like actually, where is she from?
I actually one thing that to give this episode some credit is I did like how they, demythologized the Apple scene where that's more like the moment where he's just resigned himself to staying there with her now, you know? That's what the Apple kind of does in here.
I like a little too much about the mythology, and I thought, oh man, he just came from a planet where humanity has devolved so much that they have gone that final step of destroying themselves. And now he's on this planet with the opportunity to make a fresh start and I guess populate Earth, soon to be Earth. But now he's going, if you follow the myth, now he's going to get us started out on the wrong trajectory, which is, oh, he's going to eat the apple because now it's not just a temptation, it's just the need to survive. I guess we're just going to perpetuate the same story. Like all of their progeny from then on, it's like going to get to a point where, yeah, one son's going to kill another son, and then you got, warring tribes, and eventually they will all destroy themselves too.
And
So I,
20
it,
generations of inbreeding.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to see that ending as like a positive thing. Like, oh, these two are gonna make it. And I thought, oh, but he's got the apple, and now it's just gonna be sin from here on out.
Okay, see, I was willing to take that as just a nice, delicious apple that later gets, misconstrued through a game, a thousands year game of telephone. So,
Well, but see that's the thing. It depends on how you want to take the episode. Like the episode can literally be, and I realize that I'm going to use literal and myth in a weird kind of juxtaposition here, but it can literally be the creation myth from the Bible, or it can just be a broad brush kind of myth about, oh yeah, here's life being seeded on a planet because we don't know necessarily the specifics about the origin of life. So isn't it fun to imagine the idea that maybe one day it's us from Earth seeding life on another planet? Or maybe you want to take the mythology of that other show that you didn't mention by name that says, oh, here's where maybe life here began out there.
well, here's the two ones that were running through my mind, and the first one I recently had my rewatch of 2010. Um,
Oh, sure. Love
the
it. Yeah.
very good sequel 2001. The only problem it
Hmm.
has is it's not 2001. So,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
you watch it isolate, it's great. But I really like in that movie, if people don't remember, they want to explore this ship that went wrong in 2001. So, um, the Americans have the knowledge of the ship. The Russians actually have the ship, so they have to all go out together. And
Yeah.
while they're circling Jupiter, same thing is happening, like where the countries are
Right.
about to go nuclear war. That movie, to spoiler it, ends with the monolith basically demanding that they don't blow each other up and stay away from this one planet.
Yeah.
Um, the other
Yeah.
spoiler, here comes spoilers. If you don't want a spoiler for a TV show, it's Battlestar ends the same way, basically. So there's the other reboot, Battlestar, of course, ends the same way. So
Yeah.
um, I'm actually curious how you felt when that aired. The did you see that when it
Galactica?
aired? Yeah.
I did not. I did not
Okay.
because I had I loved that series so much. And I could smell the end coming. And then I read about it before it aired. And then I just put it off. I just put it way, way, way off and thought, okay, I'm going to stew in my disappointment and then come back to it later. So at least I kind of spared myself in the moment. And just in the moment reflected on how much I really appreciated what the series had built up. Um, but man, yeah, I'm not a fan usually of that kind of trope, and maybe it's because maybe it's feel like this episode did it well in an original and clever way that would have been new to a broad TV audience at the time. But I feel like once that stuck, it just became like a go-to if you want to try to show the audience how clever you are. And even Serling, he kind of does it again in Planet of the Apes, where it's like, oh no, no, you're not where you thought you were the whole time. And by the way, again, here's like the cyclical nature of humanity that we will destroy ourselves and then maybe start anew, and maybe Taylor and Nova are going to go start a new civilization. Who knows? Ignore the sequels. Just imagine what would have come after, right? So I feel like every time I see that kind of ending now, I think, well, Rod Serling already did it,
I
but
do
but I can't
think
expect everybody to have also seen that ending.
yeah, I do think Probe 7 may be the first time we've seen this on film. I'm sure some 50s
Hmm.
potboiler sci-fi did this as well. But as
Oh,
far
I'm
as
sure.
filmed
Yeah.
entertainment, I cannot. Like Living Doll, we were like, is this the first cursed doll thing? We you couldn't quite work that one out, but I feel pretty
Right.
confident saying it's the first time for this twist. I can't think of a 50s sci-fi that tried to do it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, I imagine there's probably a pulp somewhere that has this idea. And also, look, it plays into any time on Twilight Zone or any time in those kind of 30s, 40s, 50s sci-fi pulp stories where it's like this weird, almost like masculine fantasy thing of like the rugged astronaut who lands on a planet, but all he's got now is just his wits and his presumed conquering of nature and a really gorgeous woman, you know, like that's all he's got. So I guess he'll have to make do with that.
Yeah. Um, it is interesting like how she interacts because she's kind of hiding. And then when he's gone, she gets in the ship, which is a weird move, I think.
Yeah,
And then she's just banging
yeah,
around in the like the command, not the service module or something. Well, I'm
yeah.
trying to put it logically that that would be the service module part of his ship, but
Right,
it's
right,
really just
right.
a closet.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
hey, I guess this is why my wife wants me to lock the door even when it seems pointless. I don't know. Japan is my door is not currently locked, and everyone's probably leaving the house right now, and it's still unlocked, and it's fine.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
I wouldn't do
yeah.
that in Atlanta. That would not be the case.
No, 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 probably
Uh,
not.
I do have, yeah, yeah. Don't have to lock your door. I do most of the time, but you don't have to. I remember
Sure.
coming here, people would just like leave their phone on the table and then go off and at a mall or something and go off and get drinks or something. And I was like,
Oh
whoa.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, and even just on a smaller scale, like being in Birmingham right now as we record this, the number of times that like haven't locked a car door or something like that. I mean, not in a busy parking lot, but just in general, it's relatively quiet. Like you don't really think twice about it.
I go around at midnight with a nice guitar on my back, which you don't do that in the States. You're not going to have that guitar anymore
Mm-mm.
for too
Mm.
long. So, but yeah, yeah.
That's true.
Even this planet, this planet Earth has a very low crime rate, but we do have a breaking and entering committed in this episode. So yeah.
I believe you mean Urta. No, not to be confused with Urta Kit. Yes, but
Yeah.
that's where they are. Uh-huh.
Let's see. What else do I have? For some reason, I made a bunch of notes about the apple pie I was eating. It was a Japanese apple pie with large caramelized apples attached to bits of cake. I had to strategize as I ate, but it was pretty good. Which I don't know if I'm writing that much about my apple pie. I guess I was like half watching this one, so I guess it's not quite gripping, despite how good Richard Basehart is in it. There's something not quite gripping about this episode.
Well,
Um,
by the way, coincidentally, I had apple cobbler at Eddie Mae's, so
oh
we
yeah.
we both had a little apple dish recently. Um, I think it's not that the episode isn't gripping. I just think that you've seen it before, I've seen it before, and it's one of those episodes that is just waiting for the twist. And I think I told you well before we uh, had even set up this recording. Is it like I remember my dad saying to me because he watched The Twilight Zone, he was a fan of it, and we would talk about like, oh, have you seen this one? Have you seen this one? Oh, this one was great. And I remember being very, very young, like probably 8 years old, and like, oh, have you seen the one where the astronaut crashes on a planet and then there's only one other woman there, and it's Adam and Eve, get it? I'm like, oh, all right, well, guess I don't really need to see that one. Like he wasn't trying to give me a spoiler, but it's one of those episodes where sometimes you know the twist, but the journey to get there is so intriguing and the twist is so weird that it still works. And some of those I can watch over and over again. And this one I feel like, all right, it's played well, and there are interesting clues about what's happening. Well, not even clues, but just interesting background given about what happens on the Colonel's home planet. But maybe I'm less invested in that when I know that he's not from Earth. It's like, oh, great, just some other planet where they're going to destroy themselves. All right.
Yeah, really great episode. The twist should just be icing on the cake. Take
Right,
It's a
right.
Good Life. The twist is in the first minute of the episode, and the rest of it is dealing with that
Yeah.
twist, you know? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everyone knows the twist right from the get-go. It's never a surprise. Does that even
Yeah.
make it a twist? I guess that makes it high concept, but yeah.
Yep, there you go. There you go. Yeah,
Whereas this one,
exactly.
uh, it's baby step high concept, you know? I mean, I think
Hmm.
this episode's really original, but it was just done better later.
Yeah. Well, again, to give credit to a story that, like you said, probably the first time that this twist has been filmed, and definitely the first time for most of the viewing audience, unless they are hardcore science fiction readers, probably the first time they've been exposed to this. It's pretty genius in the way that, okay, you're telling a story that is so familiar to 90% of your audience anyway. Like already heard the mythology, they already are on board with that. So by framing it this way, then revealing that twist at the end, it's almost like beginner's science fiction, you know?
I think that's how this one smells. Yeah. I mean, that
Yeah.
galaxy description, like you mentioned, is completely whack. The
Yeah.
ending of
Yeah.
this, to use one of your terms, is, bonk bonk you on the head as hard as it can bonk, you know? Uh,
Right. 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 Right.
um, so yeah, it's a very baby step beginner science fiction, which I want to complete my thought by asking the first of the
Hmm.
regular questions here by
Yeah.
uh asking who in this episode do you think is going in or through the Twilight Zone?
Um, well, interesting. I think both Adam and Eve are going through the Twilight Zone. And sorry. I think both Adam and Eve are going through the Twilight Zone in the respect that their lives as they knew them are over completely. And now they have this incredible burden of a planet that is their domain, and presumably nobody else. I mean, maybe somebody else will turn up in their future. We don't know. I hope so for the gene pool anyway. Um, so there's some weirdness in their journey, but at the same time, it's also not like a mystical, supernatural, fate biting you kind of journey. It's just like, no, this is a scientific reality. You left in a spaceship, your planet is gone, now you're crashed, and now you got to make do. So I think it's pretty low on the um, who went through the Twilight Zone, but I think it's them. You know, their lives are upended.
Yeah, there is a thing where Rod does say in the opening narration, Adam Cook is
Hmm.
entering the Twilight Zone. So Rod said it.
Yeah.
That said, like you said, he was an astronaut. Of course, no one's going to like the situation, but it's a fully expected situation that your ship may have a problem, your ship may crash, you may get a broken arm, you might meet something. None of that's that Twilight Zone-y. The
Yeah.
people on
No,
the
it's
monitors on the home planet, to me, they're the ones experiencing the Twilight Zone because they're trying to
yeah,
keep this guy not be lonely while they're about to explode. I'm like,
right.
that is a Twilight Zone.
That's a little more
That
Twilight
that
Zone. Yeah.
12 minutes are going to be way weirder than anything Adam's experiencing on this planet. I mean, they're
I
moving from secure location to secure location. It's a madhouse.
I think, boy, if you rewrote this episode, you could actually squeeze out a couple of minutes and maybe change up a bit by doing some stuff back on the home planet. You could still frame it in such a way that you don't know that it's not Earth, but you could actually have something about that discussion. Like, this guy's gone. We're losing it here. Who's going to stay behind and talk to him? You know? But as far as the Colonel, as far as his journey, yeah, it's it's only as weird as like getting lost in the woods. Like that's not entering the Twilight Zone. That's just a really bad day. That you got lost and now you got to go into survival mode. So that
Maybe
it
people
sucks.
did not want to see the home planet stuff this shortly after the Cuban Missile Crisis. That might be
Maybe,
a
maybe.
factor. Like
Yeah.
it's like 2021, 2022, nobody wanted to go watch the movie Contagion anymore, you know? Great movie, but it
No
was
kidding.
not feeling like a good one to play at the time. So,
Yeah, yeah. Oh God. By the way, and I know you have your other follow-up question, but a couple of notes that I forgot to get to. He has a line in here to Eve where he says, "Well, I guess the smarter of us will have to learn the other's language." Like, and who is it that's learning the language so far? It's him learning her name and the name of this substance, the dirt that we call Earth. So I thought it was like a little like, oh, who's gonna learn the language? Hopefully they're on equal footing here. Hopefully they're both pretty smart. And by the way, because I love in science fiction, I love a good label. So when we cut to that computer with the giant label that says prior transmission recordings, that's
And it has
that
an
is
entire
gold.
console, which you
Just
know
for
is
that.
hardwired just for that in 1963.
Just for that one thing. Like that ship is literally designed to just move prior transmission recordings from one place to another.
Yeah, to give the episode a little more credit, I guess for me this is just like a right quality wise, just a right down the middle sort of Twilight Zone, you know. Um,
Hmm.
but and I actually forgot where I was going with that. Oops. But
Perfectly acceptable. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it happens. I mean, it does look like he's living in a closet. It's like those when they have the airplane cockpit and you're like that is a
Yeah.
hastily constructed set there, you know?
Right. Right.
Although there's
Right. Yeah.
oh yeah, we were watching the which on Films and Filth, it because there's a weird controversy, it actually is the number one worst movie, although it wasn't on our podcast, which is Smolensk, where they had recreated the
Oh,
aircraft
no way.
cockpit, but it still looked fake and cheap, which was weird. But apparently it was accurate, so you can't always
Boy,
judge these things directly.
I
I'm
love
pretty
it.
sure the Plan 9 airplane cockpit is not real, but
Yeah, I think you're safe in assuming that. Yeah.
yeah.
Oof.
Now, for this episode, it does make more sense to apply that. Does do they deserve their trip into the Twilight Zone with Adam and Eve? It doesn't really make sense to ask that question with the people back home because we didn't see a
Yeah.
whole lot of them, as
No,
mentioned.
no.
But
But I mean,
um,
apparently they're the lucky ones because, everybody else is going to be gone. We say survive.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting when the feller back home, let's
Yeah.
get his name, General Larrabee, was,
Yeah.
the only option now is to figure out if we're gonna die fast or die slow, you know?
Yeah. Right.
And then they're reporting some insane radiation thing. See, that stuff is somewhat accurate. That throws
Yeah.
off that the
Yeah.
space
Yeah.
stuff is
Yeah.
so whack that
Yeah.
kind of what's coming in from there seems reasonably
Right.
accurate.
Right.
But yes, let's talk about if Adam and Eve, will put even if they deserve their trip through the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not so much a matter of deserve because I don't think that I don't think we look badly on either one of them. It's just sort of like a job hazard that they ended up there, you know. And again, if they are leaving a place that has destroyed itself a million times over, then they're if they're going to have a decent survival, then this is our only chance. So
And we
good
never
on
really
them.
work out where she's from, so yeah.
We don't, and here's the thing, you could sort of kind of you could make a case for her being from the same place that he is. They're both humanoid, eyes on the front of the head, two of them. Um, you could make a case that they're from the same place, but like us, different country, different language, they just don't know how to communicate. Or you could make a case of her being from yet another planet that maybe is experiencing the same fate as his. We don't really know. Um, but like I said, I don't think there's a whole other dead civilization on this planet with a million more people like her who are just gone and she's the last one left. I feel like she had to come from somewhere.
Yeah, I guess another treating of this, well, the crash thing is a what enemy mine, right? Which
Oh, yeah, yeah,
that would
yeah.
have been an interesting way to play that
Yeah,
with
yeah,
this, which was I'm actually
truly.
looking up who wrote that movie because I have a feeling it's like Richard Matheson or something.
Mm-hmm, hmm.
uh,
I think you're right. Yeah.
it's not Matheson, but
No?
it's based on a science fiction novella by Barry B. Longyear. Okay.
Okay. All
But
right, Barry. Well
I
done.
thought I was just going to make an awesome connection there, which I did not. So failure on that. But what
It
can
is
you do?
Matheson-esque. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, anytime you have an astronaut in the Twilight Zone, I'm kind of like, hey, they didn't know what they were going to get into in this, so they kind of deserve it because, like you said, it's a job hazard.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
parallel, you don't expect that to happen, but when you are an explorer like that, who knows what you're going to run
Right.
into, you know?
But it's one of those things where it's like, I don't need fate to nail this guy the way that often happens in the Twilight Zone, where like no matter what, fate will absolutely screw you because you deserve it as karma. This is one of those where it's just like, oh, okay, this is definitely a bad day at the office.
And this guy's resilient enough to sort of roll with it. You know, he's not, again,
Yeah,
he's not just
exactly.
becoming misanthropic and depressed and stuff, which is
He's
he
not angry
could.
about it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
not angry about it. He's just confused and depressed, you know.
I guess where would you like to place this one on the tripometer? Zero is not trippy, five is extremely trippy.
I think this is about a three, because the way that things play out, like it is very directly a science story. Guy leaves from a planet in a rocket ship. Rocket ship crashes. He's never going to get home. Shouldn't want to go home anyway because they're destroying themselves. So now he's got to make a new life on a new planet. Lucky him, there's a beautiful woman there as well. There's nothing trippy about that. It's just unfortunate. The trippy thing is, of course, the twist. Like we're going to throw in this mythological twist to make the audience go like, oh, maybe, alien life seeded life on Earth, or life on Earth will seed other life on another planet some generations to come. Like that's a cool concept, but it's also not particularly trippy unless your mind is blown because Serling connected it to a widely held popular religious myth on Earth. You know, I don't know if that would even like infuriate some people watching it at the time. Maybe I'd kind of like to hear those stories, but I think it's low on trippiness. Three, maybe even a two.
Yeah, I was sitting here thinking 2.5 because it's
Okay.
it's space.
Mhm.
Like I say, Westerns tend to pre to bias me into lowering my scores a little bit when it's a Western vibe in the Twilight Zone. When it's a space
Yeah, yeah,
vibe,
yeah.
that cranks it up a bit, just like in my predisposition. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
that said, when there's a so actually I'm kind of rating this one pretty low on the trip for a spacey one. And I guess it's just again, like you said, it's like beginner science fiction. Um, some books I've read, they're presented as nonfiction, which are whack. But if you read them as science fiction, the books of Zachariah Stitchin gets into this stuff too, like trying to work out the quote unquote reality of all of these myths. So
Right.
some
Right.
people are reading those like, this is real, but honestly, they're
Yeah.
well-written books that are really fun to read. So if you're not like sitting here reading them as nonfiction, they're pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, there's the Sinai Peninsula looks like that because there was a nuclear war by, Anunnaki people from a planet that revolves around us every 3,000 years. So I'm like, I like that. That's great science fiction. I don't need to worry
Yeah.
about the fact that it's presented as pseudoscience. I can just enjoy it for what it
Right.
is, you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and hey, if people in there into a Twilight Zone, those books are kind of up your alley. It's just when it's like, this is a nonfiction book, you're like, oh, what? So
Right.
it
Right.
is in the presentation.
Yeah.
This, as a science fiction, is probably better because it has the credits of the Twilight Zone at the start of it. If you
Hmm.
were watching us on a
Yeah.
different show, it honestly would probably seem more bland. But I think we give this a little bit of benefit because it's Twilight Zone branded, you know?
It's got style. It's got like at this point, 1963, we are well used to Rod Serling's uh, uh, kind of tastes and trippiness anyway. So even if this is low on the tripometer, like you say, it just kind of it exists in the pantheon of Twilight Zone stories. So it's a little bit buoyed from that. Maybe your perception is helped a little bit by that.
Here's where might be missing a little branding, though. I don't recall seeing anything from Forbidden Planet inside that spaceship.
Ooh, yeah, but I'm telling you, man, those set pieces, some of that has got to be recycled from other
I'm sure it's
things.
recycled from something. Just is
Yeah, yeah.
it's just as the show is going on, watching in order, it's like the
Yeah.
amount of Forbidden Planet stuff just seems to increase over
Oh
the
yeah. Yeah.
seasons, not decrease. It's not like they started off with that stuff. I mean, what is it? We had Uncle Simon last week, which hello,
I
Robbie the
just
robot.
watched I just watched that one the other day. Yeah, a little disappointed at the modifications made to Robbie, but
Right.
still good to see Robbie on screen no matter what.
Well, to quote last week, there was a mark there for that one, and he requested because he is a big fan of parlor sniping, which that is full of.
It is that's good. Yeah, it totally is.
Angry people being snarky towards each other. That's right.
I mean, there's some great dialogue in that episode. Really is.
Um, you said you had a few more notes, which I think you covered, but I just want to swing by and make sure that you got that
Yeah,
out.
no, I covered them all. I mean, just a shout out to that giant label, super cool. And like I said, the I love the simplicity of communication, which is just here, I'm going to make you understand the concept of a galaxy by drawing a circle in the dirt. Like, I think that's wonderful. There's no way to tell. Like, I'm drawing a circle. Is that your home? Is that your ship? Is that a planet? Oh, it's a whole galaxy. Oh, okay.
Is he
You
making an
know,
unwelcome pass of some kind?
right, exactly. Is that a mating ritual on his home planet? We don't know. Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll wrap this one up for today then. So it is, when does this come out? November 10th, I think, if you would like to
Ooh,
say what's
wow.
going on in your podcasting world. Your background is telling us a bit about that, I believe, if people are getting a
Yeah,
video of
well, I
this.
mean that's from Mission Log Live the other night. We opened up the first two episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks for season 5. Absolutely blasting about the Orions or the Orions, depending on where you're from, and some really nice throwbacks to Star Trek the animated series. So that's why I'm rocking that in my background. But coming up early November on Mission Log, we've had Norman back for 3 episodes in a row. We're going to have him back for another one, but mix in there a couple of guest voices as well. But glad to say that Norman has been up to popping in. So we'll be well into the first half of season 6 at that point, going through Equinox, Survival Instinct. Let's see, Alice, Mike Richards, and I are doing Tinker Tenor Dr. Spy. So all of those will be coming out around that time, like early November-ish. And those are all over on podcast.roddenberry.com.
Yeah, my brain's been exploding in the Orion Orient thing because in Japan they'll have the covered shopping street, which is spelled Orion, but it's Orion Dory.
It was
And then the
Oriental.
Okinawan
Oh,
beer
funny.
is the beer from Okinawa is Orion beer, not Orion.
Not
So
Orion.
uh,
Oh, man.
in Japan they don't say Orion. So yeah, it's but I want
Interesting.
so I got blasted with that 20 years ago when I first came here. Um, as for this, it's Time Enough podcast. If you want to bop in, give a rating, write a review, all that sort of things. I like to see those. I like to see them more when they're good, of course. But do what you need, do what you want to. Um, I do some other podcasting. Just about this time, you could also hear John here talking in depth about Planet of the Apes over at Podcast
Yeah,
1999, where we've just decided, you know what, 1999 from the 70s, you could do any 70s sci-fi and call it 1999, right?
pretty
It's all
much.
the
Yeah.
weird features. So we're doing the apes, we're doing the movies, we're doing the live action TV show from the 70s, we're doing the animated one. We're not doing the newer movies, not because they're bad or anything, just they're not of a piece of that 70s apiness.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair.
So okay, yeah, and then go start a new reality, man.
Populate that reality.
I can cite that. Okay. I just like to leave
All
enough
right,
silent.
man.
That's my really lazy version of editing. Just shut up for
That's your
five
out.
seconds and I can
I
spot
love
it.
it. I love it. All right, man. Cool. Well, I am going to hop over and record an ad with Earl here real quick. So, pleasure as always. Thank you for the early hour. I hope you do get that nap later.
No problem.
And
Now I'm going to talk about Amadeus. And then I'm going to go
yeah.
get my parents or just take them to the supermarket and I guess we're going to get lunch. So I can clock into work, but no one's at work for 2 hours. So I'm like, I'll go get lunch.
Oh, nice. All right.
Not
Good
do that.
deal. Good deal.
Okay, I will
All right, my
catch you
friend.
before too long. Have a good one.
Take care. Pleasure as always. Be good.
Bye.
Bye.